The summer Hikaru assaulted his best friend. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 4 of The Summer Hikaru Died. And I want to talk about last episode a little bit more here, because last episode was a very interesting episode that touched on some heavier topics, I feel, in regards to this big gay allegory that this series is. Because with the obvious allegory of the attempted murder being representative of assault, not physical assault, but, sexual assault. And Hikaru, being extremely apologetic about it and knowing it was wrong and, not actually going through with it completely, which is good. It's one of those things that is extremely uncomfortable and is obviously meant to be, because we kind of saw it from the other perspective. Prior to that, a lot of this series was being told mostly from Yoshiki's perspective, which makes sense. He's the outsider seeing, basically the corpse of his friend being paraded around by this monster and having to kind of live with it, having to kind of deal with it and learn to accept it. And obviously we know this has all been an allegory for him, discovering his, feelings, realizing he's gay, and coming to terms with changes in a friend that he was not prepared for. But we also are now seeing this from Hikaru's perspective. Hikaru is, in the literal sense, this monster. This monster that has taken over this teenage boy's body and is trying to exist as Hikaru. He genuinely just wants to be Hikaru because he enjoys it. He enjoys spending time with Yoshiki. He doesn't have nefarious intent or purpose. He will kill, as we've seen, if it is to protect Yoshiki, but his intent is not to do so. And that makes it really interesting. There's also the perspective we get of him having to deal with being in this body, having to deal with living like a human, something he's obviously not used to. Though he doesn't really have a lot of knowledge of a life prior to this. He just kind of had instinctual actions. He's becoming someone new through this experience. And as I stated last time, this kind of reads as a bit of a trans allegory as well. Having to deal with being in a body you're not used to and finding your identity through it. It's basically him choosing to be Hikaru, to become Hikaru, is in a way an allegory of a trans person coming to terms with understanding and accepting wanting to be someone, the gender that they do not, or that they have not identified as prior, because of, how they were assigned at birth. And speaking as someone who is trans, it does hit a bit. Because those fears are understandable. Those, the confusion, trying to, fit in. And it's not always easy and not always entirely going to happen. But if it's something that you truly want to strive for, then you have to, go for it. And obviously none of this about him trying to like discover himself, trying to figure himself out makes what he did okay, but he knows this. And again, he never went all the way, thankfully. Believe me, I would have a very different perspective on this if he did. But he almost sexually assaulted him. Or again, in the more literal sense, killed him. But we remember, this is allegory still. And it's just like, the idea is that he was giving into his desires, because through discovering himself through this as well, he's also kind of discovering that he is gay. It's not just Yoshiki's story, it's Yoshiki and Hikaru's story. This is both of their story. And so we have to view it from both of their perspectives, and last episode really helped with that. So we get to see that he's going through these troubles as well. And it's obviously not exactly the same. But having that different perspective allows us to see Yoshiki's... excuse me. Allows us to see Yoshiki's story in a different way. And it adds that next layer of depth and intrigue to all of it. And that's what I like to see in these kinds of shows. I like to see, like, depth and nuance. I like to see these characters really explored. And I like to see them make mistakes and do bad things, because it allows them to grow. You don't want a character who's perfect. No. Because then there's no room to grow them. If they're perfect, there's nothing to do, like, in terms of their character throughout the series. You want to be able to see them change and grow and improve on themselves. Find out more about themselves. And that a lot of times comes through them making mistakes and doing bad things. Think about, like, all your favorite anime characters out there. None of them are perfect. Like, Luffy's not a perfect protagonist. He does bad things sometimes. He's selfish. He makes mistakes. Going with the other big three, Ichigo and Naruto are obviously not perfect. Like, you're not going to find one who is. Unless that's the joke. Like, what is that one anime called? It's with that one, like, high school boy who's, like, literally perfect in everything he tries to do. And that's literally a joke. It's a parody series. It's a comedy. I can't think of what it's called. But yeah, there's that. It's like, and that's the point. That's like making a specific joke out of it. That's going to bother me if I don't look that up. Don't you hate when that happens, when you know what you're talking about very distinctly, but you can't, like, think of what it's called? Anime about perfect or about how, let's word this differently, about boy who does everything perfect. That's it. Haven't you heard I'm Sakamoto? That's what it is. Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, if I've seen a little bit of it. I haven't, like, watched all of it, but the anime is like, haven't you heard I'm Sakamoto? Based off a manga. It's like Sakamoto is like this teenage boy who, like, literally everything he does is perfect. Literally everything. Anything he tries to do, he does perfectly. Even if it's his first time doing it. It's like, that's the joke, though. That's the point. But in a series like this that is like a lot more grounded and serious, you're definitely going to have protagonists who are much more complicated and much more problematic in some cases. And the thing is, Hikaru wasn't the only one who like made mistakes in the last episode. Mind you, his were like what he almost did was definitely worse, but Yoshiki also had some things he was trying to do. And mostly that was conspiring with this other lady against Hikaru. And he was doing this out of fear. He was doing this out of fear. He was freaked out over everything. He didn't know what else to do at the moment. But I think it's made clear by the end he's probably done with that entire arrangement, so I'm interested to see where they continue to take a lot of these storylines, because we've set up a lot with just these first 3 episodes. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm very curious to see where they take this, because I using this kind of supernatural body horror series as a gay allegory is really interesting, and I'm really hoping that they continue to like do as well as they've been doing for these first few episodes. But we're just going to get into this and hope for the best. So let's check out this episode and see what we have in store. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked up the episode to try and find out the name of this spiritually aware classmate. Her name is Asako, and I'm thinking she's going to be big, because we see that she can sense spirits and has like, apparently her friends said that she had like a very good track record. She had very good instincts, and so I'm thinking that she probably knows she can sense spirits, and she's just trying to kind of maybe not necessarily ignore it, but just keep herself and her friends and all away from them. I definitely think she's going to come back into play at some point, especially in regards to Hikaru. But we see the spirit at the end is exorcised by the woman from the previous episodes. And that's really interesting, because I don't think it said, unless I'm mistaken, which is possible, you know. But I don't think it said that she actually exorcised spirits like that. Like, she was just aware of them and aware of, like, everything going on. But, yeah, that's really interesting in and of itself, because that poses a new threat on top of everything else we've already got going on with the village and the hamster guy, for lack of a better way to put it, with him. I guess you could probably call him an exorcist as well. So yeah, it's like you got kind of those aspects of it that are like a looming threat. And this episode is now the first to directly discuss the LGBTQ plus community, with them discussing another villager who is like being kept out of the public eye, and Hikaru's like, oh, he's diseased or something, right? And he's like, no, he's gay. And it's like so it makes it very clear that, like, even from a literal sense, even just outside of the allegory and everything, even from a literal sense, this village is also homophobic. So it's like, ah, we're not even like hiding in the allegory anymore. Though, I mean, obviously the stuff with Hikaru and Yoshiki is still the allegorical aspect of it, but um the scene at the beginning with the cat was also interesting because we know like the cat was like having this sixth sense for Hikaru, but the fact that it's also becoming used to him to the point of like eating the food he's offering and being like willing to let him pet even though Hikaru doesn't know how to pet a cat. It's like that's really interesting because you would think that the cat would remain like, you know, scared of him because of the an animal's senses and all. But the fact that the cat is starting to warm up to him and everything like that, like a normal person, also furthers the allegory and everything. It makes it like very clear. It's like that Hikaru is in a way human, just like anyone else. I mean, literally speaking, he is a monster, but he wants to be human. He's trying to be human. He wants to be Hikaru. And that's all that really matters to him in this. He doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't want to be a monster. He doesn't want to like cause any problems. He just wants to be Hikaru and he wants to be there for Yoshiki. That's all that he needs to know. So that's really interesting that even the cat is like kind of acknowledging his humanity here. Um Also, we got like the discussions from the, I guess, village leaders or whatever you want to call them about like Hikaru's involvement in all of this, and they're the original Hikaru and his family's like connection to all of this supernatural stuff, which kind of been we've kind of been drip fed that information. So it's like I'm definitely waiting for like the big drops with that. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see. Another big revelation we got in this episode though is that Yoshiki actually found Hikaru's body. When Hikaru disappeared, Yoshiki actually found his body. And seeing his corpse there caused him to pass out. Others found him shortly after, whether it was his mom who was calling out or someone else found him first. He was found, both of them were. And Yoshiki was out for a couple days, waking up to find Hikaru awake as well. And it's at that point he already knew that Hikaru was dead because he had found his dead body, he had checked for, you know, breathing and pulse and all. So he knew that wasn't him. It wasn't just that he was different from Hikaru. He knew before that. He knew just because he had found Hikaru's corpse that this wasn't him. So that's an interesting kind of recontextualization of what we had already seen in like episode 1. Because episode 1 made it seem like it was just the fact that he was notably different in terms of personality and whatnot. But now we're seeing it's like, oh no, he knew even before that. It's just, that was more of like a full confirmation. So, that's pretty interesting. We see the barriers that are used in a lot of like supernatural stuff. You've seen this in like Dan Dan and whatnot. We see that does work against Hikaru. He cannot pass by these barriers. But apparently, at least the way that this guy, the hamster guy, is making them, he has to sacrifice like an internal organ to do so. Which I guess that's why he looked so fucked up. Why he looked like he went through the ringer. That's horrific. And I know there's some organs that you probably could sacrifice without too much issue coming from it. But it's like after a while, no, there's a certain point where it's like you're not going to have like just benign organs anymore. It's like you're going to need those. You can't just sacrifice those. So it's like that's something he can't do a lot of, which that was the point of expressing that. That's something like he can't just like constantly throw up. It will kill him if he tries. We did see though that the hamster specifically reacted, I guess, when Hikaru hit the barrier. So the hamster is also connected to all of this. I don't know if it's just, the animal sixth sense thing, or if like it's a special hamster that's very specifically connected to like these barriers and whatnot. I don't know. But it is pretty wild and can lead to some interesting things. But I like how this episode kind of almost represented the final stage of the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of grief model. And it's like you could almost say like these episodes have been like kind of speed running them a little bit. But we've seen like the last episode even showcased, and even a little bit of this episode showcased Yoshiki's depression over this all. But this episode definitely was about acceptance. He like has come to fully accept this new Hikaru, and is like you could see he's like bonding more with him now that the trouble of getting to like connect with him is past. So we've kind of seen a bit of that with this, and this definitely felt like the acceptance portion of it all. But this is still pretty early, so I don't think this is meant to be like a directly like spot on stages of grief kind of thing. And it's more like we're just like going through these same kind of ideas, just at different points. So it's going to be very interesting to see like where that goes from here. Will Yoshiki have like troubles with Hikaru further at this point, or is it going to be like, is their relationship just going to keep growing closer from here on out? Because again, it's already at that acceptance stage, but are we going... basically, what I'm asking here is, are we going to make the allegory explicit in terms of their relationship? Because there's a lot of blushing. There's a fuck ton of blushing between these two, and especially in these recent episodes. And with this episode directly like acknowledging queer people, I'm really wondering if by the end this is going to like break the allegory down completely and have Yoshiki and Hikaru actually, become a couple. Because I think that would be a really cool idea. To have this start as almost entirely allegorical, but then eventually break down the allegory and just like blatantly tell us what the series is actually about. I think that would be really cool. It would definitely be a way to do a twist on a lot of shows that touch on allegorical views of different topics. But we'll see how it goes, of course. Obviously, do not spoil me. Do not tell me if any theories or anything I say or ask is correct or not. I do not want to know ahead of time. I want to be spoiler free. I'm just spitballing as a way of processing my thoughts. So no spoilers. But all of that being said, yeah, another really good episode. Really ramped up some tension and got us moving forward in an interesting way. I'm very, very interested and curious to see where this continues to go. So, Excuse me. All of that being said, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode of The Summer Hikaru Died. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.